but project management definitely is a certification that you can achieve without having a 4-year degree. So a couple of options. Not everyone is meant to go to a 4-year school. And if you want to make, I consider we all make a decent wage. Everybody's head is shaking. So definitely in whatever roles we have all landed into, I think it's a very lucrative position. And I definitely think it's worth checking into. Welcome to today's episode. Project Mentor Bro is going to bring to you what it's like to be a project manager. I have 4 guests today. We have Dwayne Miller, we have Tabeier Hamilton, we have Carpenter, and we have Tina Briggs. And they all have one thing in common. Can you guess what that is? They were all project managers. And so if you have any curiosity or aspirations to be a project manager in the future, then this podcast is certainly for you, because our guests, they're going to give you tips, tricks, and the inside secrets on how to become a successful project manager. So, guest, welcome today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to have each and every one of you. We all have shared stories. We've all worked together. I have seen these people become magnificent and great in their own right. And so I'm so excited for our audience to learn how to become great project managers. I want to jump right in. And so we're going to start with Dwayne. Dwayne, please tell our audience, what was your first aha moment in project management? When did you realize that, yes, this is a career for me?
Excellent question. I'm not going to say anything disparaging about project managers, but as a software technician, engineer, tester, developer, development manager, production support, or what they now call service delivery, it was really frustrating that you would see a project come through the software delivery lifecycle and then fail at the end. And all the time you're dealing with this guy or girl who's asking for statuses and making sure you join calls and did you put your time in and all these things that I now understand they're KPIs for schedule, budget, and quality. They're just doing their job, but they were really annoying and they were always asking for questions. And then I realized all this hard work I had for the work I had done failed when we deployed because either someone got something else they were expecting or we just didn't deliver what was initially planned. And then you start to see you spend all this time doing something and you find out who's that conduit to make sure that it gets there. And that's the project manager. And I said, that's what I want to do. And so then you start to see a project plan and it's logical. It's one step after another. And there's days and there's variances and there's, story points for doing agile. And I'm like, that's what I want to do, because then I can bridge the technology gap to make sure that everyone knows what we're here to deliver.
Right.
I can speak the language and then, you can talk about dollars and stuff like that. But that's when I knew I wanted to do it, was after seeing hard work go for nothing, because there wasn't, and it's not an indictment on a project manager because it happened for a number of different reasons, but you never get someone to get your product across the finish line. I'm like, cool, who's that person? And that's your PMO. It's your project coordinators, your project managers, your program managers. That was my defining moment.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. And for our audience, project managers, so you can find it is a industry standard. You can get a certification from Project Management Institute. We call it PMI. And your certification would be a PMP, so your project management professional certification to do this role. So it is a highly sought after, well-recognized position within the world. I would even say project management is even bigger overseas than it is recognized here in the US. And so I just wanted to kind of set that foundation and give our listeners some of that detail. So you could look it up, Google it right now if you want to, but project management definitely is a certification that you can achieve without having a 4-year degree. So a couple of options. Not everyone is meant to go to a 4-year school. And if you want to make, I consider we all make a decent wage. Everybody's head is shaking. So definitely, in whatever roles we have all landed into, I think it's a very lucrative position. And I definitely think it's worth checking into. And there's multiple ways you can get there. Some of us have had the experience of no formal education, but maybe someone in our network recommended us for the job. And so we kind of fell into the role that way. Some of us decided that after maybe getting a little bit of taste of the job, of the role, that we were going to go get our credentials. And so we got certified, and then we started applying and we entered in the role that way. Some of us started working and we don't have credentials, but we now have years upon years of experience. And everyone here on this panel represented has different levels of experience within the field that has shaped who they are today. And I would venture to say has really afforded you some amazing opportunities. Would my guest agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So Dwayne, back to you. So my next question would be, project management can sometimes feel like juggling swords, like flaming swords. I'm thinking of a circus, and everyone likes to see the guy throwing the swords up in the air. And so I feel like at times project management can feel that way. How do you keep your cool under pressure? And do you have any funny or memorable stories about a time when things didn't go as planned?
Absolutely. So I'm sure everyone here would agree that project managers are the orchestra conductor.
Yeah.
And so if I was just the sword juggler, I'm ahead of the game. But unfortunately, as PMs, we're not. We're also the sword juggler. We're that person getting the tigers ready to get on stage. We're the ones making sure the elephants have been fed and that the ponies have the people leading them around. So we're doing all those things. All that's through orchestration and communication. So that's how I manage that. By keeping in perspective of outside the military, never had a job that lives are in the balance. You and I worked at a grocery chain. I would say that we were selling beer and carrots. Keep that in perspective. We're not putting men on the moon. We're not curing cancer. We're not solving world peace. That's someone else. I think someone else there mentioned the government and nuclear bombs. Those probably lives in the balance, maybe a little bit more important, but you got to keep things in perspective. What is it that we're delivering? If it's some life-changing thing and there's lives in balance, maybe you have to put a little more attention to detail, but otherwise it's going to be okay. Whatever happened will be okay. Funny stories. I was on an infrastructure project and leadership was discussing the ramifications of the work we were doing. We were refreshing distribution centers and leadership's like, well, they're all the same. And I said, well, they're not. The only thing they have in common is 4 walls and a roof because you have different people, different regions, different locales. And then he's like, well, how many feet of Cat 6 are you running? And I kind of chuckled and said, well, sir, I don't speak in feet. I talk in miles. And then one of the finance people were like, well, how expensive is it? And I said, well, I don't get out of bed for under 6 figures. So maybe a little bit arrogant, but overall, it just kind of helps communicate the gravity of the situation.
That's right.
People didn't understand we were dealing with millions of dollars of equipment, lots of things going on. And it was a crowning moment for the team because we were changing people's lives.
That's right.
By making it more efficient. People got more money in their pocket.
Right.
And then the company saw a greater revenue. So that'd be my funny story, was trying to tell leadership, hey, they're not all the same. I think they got common as 4 walls and a roof.
That's right. I remember you and your team managing that project and just how much confidence and pride it instilled in those people that worked in those distribution centers. Because, I mean, whatever their job was or whatever their task was, you were putting infrastructure in place so that they could be more efficient, get the job done quicker, spend more time with their families.
Yes, ma'am.
And so to everyone listening, this is an example of how project management it affects people's lives. It is not just about having a super great career that you can brag to mom and dad about. It really does allow you to make some life-changing, wonderful moments in business, in people's lives, in your team, and so many people, Dwayne. I know you flew to each and every location.
The team did.
Yes.
Not just me, the team did.
And I remember you telling me you got to talk to the people.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how gracious and, what was their conversation to you?
So we're dealing with salt of the earth people who are working in not air-conditioned buildings, not in heated facilities, because we have groceries coming in, receiving, and then you have trucks going out to the stores and shipping. And someone shows up wearing Dockers and khakis and a polo, and they want to know, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm here to make your life better. Rather than having to go from one end of the warehouse to the other to go get a wireless signal, we're going to quadruple the number of access points that you won't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
When we left 8 weeks later, I saw some of the same people. I'm like, hey, I'm able to do my 8-hour shift in 6 hours. I can pick up 2 hours of overtime.
Wow.
I'm able to buy more for my kids, or I'm able to do this or do that. And they're just wanting to say thanks. And that's customer success. That was that warmed my heart, knowing we made a difference.
Yeah.
Beyond all the ordering or the status calls or are we red, yellow, green, or any of that stuff, we changed people's lives. Very rewarding.
Absolutely. And it made me proud as your teammate, even though I never stepped foot in the
Well, it was a team success for all of us in the PMO, because project management organization, PMO, we all stand together.
That's right.
Or we fall divided. So it was a team culture, and we all had our wins in our different spaces. You killed it in the store retail side. Everyone had stuff going on during COVID even. And so
that's right.
Team effort, team sport. And anyone thinks project management is a lone wolf deal, they're wrong.
That's right. So another tip, guys, you heard it here first from Dwayne Miller. If you think you need a career where you don't want to be dependent upon the man or the woman to your right or left, this is not the career for you. So if you love to be a part of hardworking, successful, thought-provoking, creative people, then project management, I will invite you to check it out, because it is definitely rewarding. Awesome. So we're going to go to our next question. We're going to go to Miss Lee. If you could go back to your early days as a project manager, what one piece of advice would you give yourself to make the journey easier or more enjoyable?
Learn to communicate well. I was involved with helping start a school for immigrant and refugee girls in the town I live. It was with a nonprofit. And I came in partway through the project and was green, hadn't gotten my PMP yet, but was starting to think about the idea of it. And the lady whose vision it was had one vision of what that would look like. And having been involved with education for years, I came in with a vision of what that would look like. And I did not do a good job of sitting down and asking her what her vision was, collecting requirements thoroughly. And so I went off to the races, and we got a good ways in and realized we were kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, which led to a slowdown and conflict. And, looking back, I take responsibility for, it launched and the girls got a great education, but there were some slowdowns and some bumpy roads because I didn't communicate and ask the right questions to glean those details of what the vision was of a key stakeholder. And so I've learned from that, and now I ask questions
up front.
Yes, so that I know where we're headed, and we're headed there together.
And that makes a big difference. I would definitely say, if you're thinking about project management, you always want to think with the team mindset.
Absolutely.
It's extremely important that there are no big I's and little U's for sure. And it all starts with the stakeholder conversation. I definitely remember taking your class and you taught stakeholder management, and just how important, if you take the time to set the stage, then the outcome is going to be just that much clearer. And so what you're really trying to do is understand what thoughts everyone has, where they're the same, where they're different, and then making sure that based on the project objective and the scope of the project, that we all can hit the middle of the road, stay in the lane, stay in our lane, and get to our journey. And so I love that, Lee. I love that you would advise your earlier project management self to make sure that you're communicating upfront and often.
Absolutely. Transparency is key.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So now we're going to go to Miss Tina. So Tina, what is the most unconventional or creative approach that you've taken to solve a problem on a project and it worked?
Right now I'm on an associate mobility project with Hodel Hayes, and we are putting mobile devices into the stores. They were having issues. Some of them were getting white screens, and we were just trying to figure out how do we allow them to troubleshoot from where they are. We're walking them through processes. We met with the EUT team. We met with the development team and just came up with an idea on what could work, but they needed to be off of the network in order for it to work originally. So we can't shut the network down. So the question is, what part of the store gets the least, doesn't get network? Because a lot of times they're like drop zones where they don't get coverage, or have to walk outside of the store and start the troubleshooting from those areas. It's kind of unorthodox to ask someone to go into a drop zone where there's no network, or to go outside of a store to start it. But that was one of the workarounds till we could actually resolve the issue, kind of to get them to start troubleshooting, getting them back online with the device and things of that sort. So it was interesting the first couple of calls to the store. They were like, we got to go outside. I was like, well, maybe not. Let's not go outside. These are some options. Go outside, or is there a part of the store where you guys don't get coverage? Do you know where that is? Oh, I know where that is. It's right outside the office. Where the ape kind of, there were some situations where one of the APs may not have been working or something. So kind of talking them through this every time you call, it's a different scenario. Different stores have different locations that are drop zones. That's what I call them. Or one store was like, we don't have any places where there's no network. I was like, well, let me ask a question. Do you like just possibly walking outside the store? There's no network coverage there. I'm going to start from there. And they were like, are you serious? I was like, in this case, in order to get these devices back online, we'd have to start outside. So that was kind of unorthodox, but it did work. There was a workaround until we can get the issue to resolve. We kind of like talk to the brands, let the brands know, this is what we're seeing. We're working on it. This is the time frame in which we think we'll have it resolved. And then we'll just kind of keep them in the loop of what's going on, being transparent, where we are in development of or remediation of the issue, things of that sort. But yep, it's a little bit unorthodox to actually go outside.
Creativity.
What did you say?
I just say creativity.
Yes, creativity at its finest. And just for our listeners, I can imagine, you're in a store and you're doing your daily job and you're comfortable. You're in your outfit and you're, just going through your daily tasks. And then someone from corporate calls you on the phone and asks you to go outside. It could have been raining. It could have been hot.
It's hot.
And it's just like, well, I don't really know you, but you're asking me to go outside. And so I'm picturing what the person on the other end of the phone might have been thinking, like, what was this person asking me to go outside?
So I always introduce myself. I'm calling from corporate. I'm from the IT. There's a ticket in for this issue, which I'm trying to troubleshoot. This is what we'll have to walk through in order to get it resolved. So they kind of know where I'm going, and I'm very personable. So there's a conversation. It's just not dictative or things of that sort. So by the time we finish, I get their buy-in. So
that's awesome. I love it. I love it. So remember, put that tool in your toolbox. You may have to ask people to go outside. All right. So here my next question for the panelists is, project managers often work with diverse teams. So how do you bring out the best in your team members? And what's your secret to building a great team dynamic? So Lee, I'll let you take a stab at that one.
So I currently work on a diverse team. The only thing we have in common is we're all women. But I am one of the newer members of the team. I've been there for a couple of years now. And my goal is always to get to know the people on the team. What's their communication style? What's going well for them? What's hard for them, both at work and personally? What are their needs? What motivates them?
Right.
And then to become a servant leader. How can I help them shine? If I can help them be successful, help them shine, they're very willing usually to come and work together. And it helps people let go of their differences because they know they're going to have their moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tabeier, what about you?
I would add to that and say sometimes I in getting to know people, you want to know, like, what do you think your next move might be? And then seeing how even just this one project could help them build toward that next goal. But I definitely agree with what you're saying, is getting to know people on a personal level. That's me all day, every day, in and out of work. So I have no issue with that. And I feel like it's coming from a place of being genuine. And you can tell I feel like when you're a genuine person, you can tell when someone's not, like, what's their motive? But, transparency is key. Like I think we mentioned before, and just, making sure that you're setting people up for success and knowing that we're all working toward one common goal. It's like you said earlier, there's no big I's and little U's.
Absolutely.
It's all capital W-E.
Yes, I'm gonna tweak the question just slightly, because after COVID, the way we work changed. It changed drastically. Most of us have some remote component to our daily week, right? Where we may not be 100% back in the office. I am 100% remote, but I do fly in once a quarter. Some of you have a couple of days you have to be in the office. Some of you it's sporadic whenever, the occasion warrants you to be in the office. And so when we think about a team dynamic for our listeners, can anyone offer, like, what would be a strategy to build that team dynamic virtually? Does it change any?
It does. I've seen, like, my husband's been working from home before working from home was a thing. And I've seen him be very creative with his team, Friday afternoon happy hours, or they'll also do community service events where they all have to fly into headquarters. And it's optional, but usually, 100% of the people are in for it, just to get some FaceTime and some camaraderie going. So you have to be very creative. But I think doing things like that foster a sense of, okay, it's time to let your hair down. It's time to, be people first, and just really get to know each other on a personal level.
That's right.
To build that connection.
Great points. I love it. Anyone have anything else to offer?
For me, because we deal in IT and a lot of our resources may be out of the country. So sometimes I'll get up early and do you mind if we put a caller early? Because a lot of times when we get on calls, it's sort of late for them. And it's something that we do daily. So a lot of times I'll schedule my stuff sometimes early in the morning just to kind of accommodate their schedule, even though it's maybe outside of my schedule, to let them know that, it's not always about where the overall team at the U.S., it's sometimes accommodating them in their schedule. So I do that a lot.
Yes. I do have an international team that I work with as well. And I remember I had to schedule a call at 7 a.m. And that was, I think they're 15 hours behind us. And so that was still like 4-ish their time. And it just put in perspective for me, how much they may have to bend for us. And so that is a great way to just just to
Some
offer,
goodwill.
right, to extend goodwill and to say, hey, I'm also being considerate of what you have going on as well. So I love that. I love that. All right. So my next question is going to be for all of the panelists. And so please chime in. Just jump in whenever you feel comfortable. But if you were mentoring someone today who just started in project management, what's the one thing you would tell them to focus on if they wanted to climb the career ladder quickly? We'll start with Tina.
Okay.
Executive presence. Just exuding that confidence and showing up. Sometimes it's a first impression. Sometimes that first impression doesn't go well, so it kind of like works against you. And then you have to gain their trust. But I think it's executive presence for me.
Awesome. And for our listeners, I would say executive presence is almost charismatic. It's a charisma that you learn to develop. When you're in a room, it's that energy that attracts people to you to have conversation. Or it just makes people curious or want to listen to what you say. You show up with a lot of confidence, but it's not over the top. So then you're not repelling people to work with you. It exudes a lot of collaboration, and it lets people know that you have just the right of skill to be in control, but you don't have to be in control. That you work well with others. And it's something that I would have to say is learned over time for some people. Some people have it naturally, of course. But then definitely executive presence. I like that, Tina. So for our listeners out there, look that up. You definitely, if you're going into project management, you want to be able to exude executive presence. Anything else?
I would say learn how to manage up.
That's a good one.
Being able to communicate up and not to shy away from issues.
Okay.
Face them head on and think about solutions before you bring them up.
Oh, I love that one. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I had a manager who would say, okay, great. What are you going to do about it? And, after so many times of having that person ask you, what are you going to do about it? You'd rather come to say, here's the issue, and this is what I propose we do about it.
Right. I love that, Tabeier, because Dwayne and I, it would be a group of us. And I'll never forget, Dwayne, when I started, that you would teach me the ropes and you'd schedule some time and you'd have your dry erase markers and we'd go in the room and you would, give me the rundown of X, Y, and Z. And what that did for me is it let me know, even though we were teammates and we had a job to do, it didn't have to be competition between us. And then when I had a question, I felt safe enough with you, Dwayne, that I could ask the question with you.
Yeah, too.
We could bounce ideas off each other. And so then when I'm positioning that particular problem to the stakeholder or the executive or the VP, then I've already dialogued it out with Dwayne or with my other teammates in a safe space. And so I would offer that too. Just because you're new or just because you think that maybe you've been in the field for 20 years, there's value in utilizing your team, bouncing ideas and conversation off each other.
To that, I would say I still have the gray, kind of looks like the color of your blouse. She bought me a little Ziploc bag to hold my markers in. I travel with it always because you just never know the value of the written word. And if you can see someone and they get it, you can move on. But if you talk and talk and talk and they don't get it, then it's no consequence.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
That's
Amen.
right. I love it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, finish.
Assuming we all talk about all the project management fundamentals are being met, the one aspect I would think is that would help advance someone's career is having a financial acumen. You follow the money. Money is what, unless you work for a nonprofit.
That's a really good one.
Money, we're all in it for profit. I am not going to subsidize an employer of my time, and nor should as stewards of the company dollars, we need to make sure we know what we're doing. Knowing how we got the money, what we're going to do with it, how to report against it, how we spend it, how we recoup it, all critical things.
Absolutely.
Learning capital versus expense. So for me, it's financial 101. You need to know all that, and that will get you further in the career because anyone can code. Almost anyone can be a PM, but you need to have all the things we've been talking about. You got to have all that personal skills, the executive presence, the emotional intelligence, but
financial
stockholders, Wall Street, gotta know the ones and zeros.
That's right.
That's for me. That's my experience.
Dwayne, I remember
like that.
you had a saying. You said, if you had to rank things in order, you said financials were number one.
Mm-hmm.
What was your number two?
People.
And what was your number three?
Mission.
I do remember
Because
that.
you can't get the job done if you don't have the people. And if you're not paying the people or you're not getting the resources, you're not going to have the tools to do it. So financials got to be number one. Then you got to take care of the people. And then the mission will just come across next.
That's right. Got to know the ones and zeros. I love it. All right. Anyone else?
I would say if you're new, don't be afraid to volunteer to try new pieces of your job as well. Don't shy away just because you think, I'm not an expert on this. Be willing to take on the challenge. Be willing to ask your teammates, to bounce ideas off, to help, but take on those new challenges to get new experiences.
I love it. I definitely, I think that really helped my career, Lee, just trying new experiences. Sometimes you have the opportunity to say no. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to say no, and you're actually being voluntold to take on a new experience. But I have to say, I've been fortunate enough in my career that everything that I have been voluntold to do has really panned out well for me. And just looking across the room and on the couch here tonight, I'm so honored that each of you have played a significant role in my career. And I hope our listeners feel that this conversation will either add to your journey or inspire you to take the first step of the project management journey. So thank you for listening and have a wonderful night.